Welcome back to another episode of AYS Fight Club. I am one half of your prestigious host. I am Daniel Dees. Alongside me, as always, is the mouth of the South, Matt Bricker. Matt, what's up with you tonight?
Hey, what's going on? Ready for another show? Episode 15, I think. We're rolling along.
15. Hard to believe. 15. All right. So let's address the elephant in the room. Last weekend, we saw Dustin Poirier come out on top, finishing Conor McGregor. I believe only one out of the three people in this AYS room has predicted that. I'm not going to say who it was, but somebody predicted it. But we'll get to that another time. And I said I was going to come on here and drink some hot sauce, but have not gotten around to getting that hot sauce, but it will happen. I will drink some Dustin Poirier hot sauce. I was so happy that it happened. All right, so before we get down to our breaking down to that main event, let's go ahead and recap UFC 257. All right. It started off with what I like to call the parlay buster, because everybody had Amanda Ribas on their parlay. And Amanda Ribas got her butt whooped. You got a fan about the flat bill too. I commented on it.
Yeah.
Everybody likes it. I think that's a good hat.
Break out a different hat every week for y'all.
Do it. I love it. I love it. All right. So, yeah, Mariana Rodriguez showed out. I think she had one of the more impressive performances of the night. Absolutely dominated Ribas from start to finish. And you had Mahmoud Muradov just absolutely dominate Andrew Sanchez. Okay, somebody made a comment. I think it was Blaine Henry from the Fight Library. You know Blaine, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he made a comment, and because he read my mind and he tweeted about it. He said that these middleweights are getting bigger and bigger. Like, these guys look like 205ers in there, and they're making easy cuts to 185. And I always thought, like, Brendan Allen was a gigantic 185er. I'm thinking it can't get bigger than him. And then we saw Muradov and Sanchez in there at the same time. I'm thinking these 185 dudes are just big as hell. So, yeah, that was a good one. Then we saw Joanne Calderwood get back into the flyweight title picture as she took down Jessica Eye. Easy victory for her. All right, so let's break down the two last fights. Let's address the elephant in the room. Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker. You and I both picked Dan Hooker on this. We thought stylistically it was not a good matchup for Mike Chandler. But the thing about this is the whole style versus style, bad matchup for anybody, that goes out the window as soon as that cage door closes. And that's what happened. Mike Chandler showed that, hey, just because I was in the B show, Bellator, doesn't mean I cannot perform in here. This is happening more and more, especially with guys like Justin Gaethje popping on the scene from WSOF, came in and made a name for himself. And Michael Chandler came in and made a name for himself against one of the best lightweights we've seen come through in a while that hasn't got his due yet, but still, he's great nonetheless. Michael Chandler came in here, was in and out. He closed the distance beautifully. He went to the body, then he went up top and just put Hooker on his butt and just finished him with punches. And then
he had a lot to fight for. You know, he had a big chip on his shoulder, and a lot of times that's all you need when you have that. I mean, when you get to the UFC, everybody's a star. You know, I mean, anybody can beat anybody. You know, it's that any given Sunday, you know, mentality. I mean, once you in with the elite, I mean, anybody can beat anybody, and that's what we saw. You know, I don't know how much Hooker could have been hung up to on that loss to Poirier. You don't know how much that may have affected
him. It took years off his life on that one.
Yeah, he looked really hesitant to get involved in a firefight with Chandler. He was really kind of back a little bit more than you would expect really from Hooker to be. So I mean, you don't know what he was rolling off of from that too.
Right, and like, I just can't think of another fighter that burst on the scene like this from another company, came in, took out one of the top guys in such a dominating fashion. When someone said this was probably one of the best debuts they've ever saw, I can't disagree. When was the last time we saw somebody like this come in, fight a top 5 guy, and just put him away so dominantly? Can you think of a time? I legitimately can't.
I don't. The only one that comes to my mind is when you say UFC debuts is whenever Anderson Silva came in and just destroyed Chris Lieben.
Yeah,
I don't know what I don't know
Lieben
what
wasn't
Lieben was
considered
ranked,
a top guy like
but
that. So,
just
but still,
burns
nonetheless,
in your memory for
amazing
a debut.
performance.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
a debut to come in and he had his just to come in onto the UFC scene. That's the last one I can think of.
yeah. All right, and then the main event. I have so much I want to talk about this main event. Like, I just don't know where to begin. We saw Conor come in. We knew Conor came in focused. Everybody knew a focused Conor is a dangerous Conor. And that was the narrative going into this. And he looked pretty damn good. And then the second round happened, and Dustin Poirier, he invests in boxing, you invest in the body. Well, in MMA, you invest in the legs, and that opens up a whole new storybook of recipes for you to finish a fight. So the whole narrative now is, did Dustin win that fight or did Conor lose that fight? Because I'm of the opinion that Dustin Poirier won this fight more than Conor lost it.
100%. Yeah, I mean, and I thought about the Sean O'Malley thing with Chito Vera whenever he's like, oh, my leg was hurt. I was like, yeah, because he kicked the out of your leg. That's why it hurt. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The reason Conor's leg was jacked up like that is because Poirier beat the hell out of it. So it's cause and effect. The reason his leg was messed up is because Poirier pounded on it and it looked like he had a basketball in his leg. So I don't. Yeah. I mean, 100% Poirier did what he had to do. I mean, Conor didn't go in. He had a great first round, but I think that's why he didn't sit down. I think that's why he stood up between the round and wanted to keep going, because as soon as he stopped, then that pain kicks in and that immobility kicks in. And the biggest thing for especially those smaller weights, lightweight, especially going down, is mobility and speed. And the quickest way to take that is take that base out, take the speed away, and that's come from the leg. Poirier did exactly what he needed to do. So 100% Poirier won that.
Right. And the thing is, everybody's just coming off on Conor on this, like, yeah, he lost the fight. But I will defend Conor on this, because there's a saying in all combat sports, the most dangerous technique in a fight is the technique you don't see coming. It's the punch you don't see coming. It's the kick you don't see coming. Where have we ever seen Dustin Poirier come out and result to calf kicks? Not leg kicks, just calf kicks. We haven't seen calf kicks utilized like this since Ben Henderson versus Nate Diaz. Because there's a difference because when you're doing just a normal leg kick, you're aiming for the back of the thigh. Well, for the calf kick, you're going for that calf muscle, and it's very hard to check, because by checking a normal leg kick, you just put your kneecap in the way of where his shin bone goes, and then now you're playing a game of shin bone versus kneecap, and more times than not, the shin bone loses that fight, as evidenced by Anderson Silva getting his leg folded up against Chris Weidman. Mm-hmm. And Blake brought up another good point, and I think Dustin exploited this when Conor came out in such a heavy boxing stance, putting all that weight on that lead leg. I feel like Dustin and Mike Brown and the American Top Team did their homework on this, and they said, we're going to attack that lead leg. We're not going to kick the leg. We're going to go for that calf muscle, because when you put all that weight, I want you viewers to stand up at home right now, put all your weight on your lead leg in a fight stance. You're going to feel all that weight in your calf muscle, and that's what Dustin attacked. So he had to weather a storm, because every time Dustin would finish a combination, he would come in with the calf kick, because you never lead with a leg kick. That's just basic MMA 101. Never lead with a leg kick. Well, Dustin, he would come in, do his combo, and finish with that calf kick, and Conor would come down the pipe. And Dustin had to pay for it every now and then. So this is Dustin investing in that. I mean, I can't think of a better investment right now than calf kicks. I mean, maybe GameStop. So, I mean, that's pretty topical these days. So, yeah, I can't agree. Those calf kicks were nice. Nobody saw that coming. Like I said, we've never seen that technique utilized like that since Benson Henderson, because, again, it's that boxing style. Heavy on the lead leg. Benson Henderson knows that Nate Diaz loves to box, so you got to put that weight on your lead leg. Benson Henderson tore Nate Diaz's leg up like that.
And Poirier
Okay.
said something about he remembered the Jim Miller fight where Miller just tore his leg up. So he said, I remember what that did to me from that Miller fight. He said, that was just 3 rounds, and I know what it did. So I think feeling it a little bit too. You know what it feels like. He knew what it did to him, so throw it back the other way.
And let's go ahead and erase that narrative that Conor looked bad. No, Conor looked great. It's just that he was hit with something he did not see coming. That's something he did not prepare for, because we've never seen Dustin do this. So it kind of caught Conor off guard. I mean, Conor should have known that, hey, if I'm coming out in a boxing style, I got to know that something's coming to this lead leg. But
which
again,
is kind of
landing.
It's kind of ironic because his last fight with the Cerrone with the shoulder, he came out with something new and different. So it kind of got flipped this time. So it's just kind of the irony of
it's
it.
The technique
tables
you don't
being turned.
see coming, that's the most dangerous.
So he knows all about that, and that's it happens.
And I mean, and Conor looked good. He got Dustin got a great takedown on him in the middle of the cage. Conor did what he had to do. He butt scooted to the cage. He closed that distance from behind him. He had no space behind him. So Conor walked up the cage, and then he put Dustin's back against the cage. So Conor did look good, but until those calf kicks added up, and then that was it. And Hunter says it won the fight for him. Conor was winning otherwise. He was getting the best of him boxing. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just that Poirier had to weather that storm. He had to dig deep and catch. He knew for a fact Conor is one of the best counter punchers this sport has ever seen. And this is what happened. I mean, Dustin knew he had to weather that storm. He had to dig deep. He had to get some grit, take his licks, and it paid off. It paid absolute dividends, and it won him the fight. Dustin's chin also weathered. Conor hit him with a kick. Absolutely.
Yeah, he did.
It did. Conor did look good and did get hit with something he wasn't expecting. We were on our feet. Everybody. I was jumping up and down my living room. My wife was in bed. My children in bed. I had nobody to celebrate with. It was a moment. Yeah, and Blake, you're right. Dustin said he got rocked in the first round too. Yep. He absolutely did. So hindsight is 20/20 through rose-tinted glasses. Everybody could say, "Oh, Conor looked bad." Blah 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 blah. I mean, he was on the ground. He had that meme pose, and that was it. Yeah, Conor was getting in the first round. It was looking like it might be a quick one earlier. It absolutely was. Like at first, my heart was pounding for Dustin. But those calf kicks numbs up that lead leg. You can't put weight on it; it'll give out on you. All right, so we'll come back to this. We'll come back to the future of Conor and Dustin, and let's talk about the future of the current champ, Khabib. I've been thinking about this all week. Hold on. Let's back up a little bit. The narrative after the fight was, oh, Dana doesn't know what to do now. Dana's pissed, blah, 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 blah. But I'm of the opinion that the stars cannot align more perfectly for Dana White to get Khabib back in that octagon. And that comes by way of Michael Chandler. In the co-main event, Michael Chandler made his debut and completely dominated Dan Hooker. We've never seen Hooker beat like this before. Chandler led the dance from start to finish, and he had Hooker backing up on his heels until his timely demise. He feinted at the perfect time. He closed the distance at the perfect time. He was in and out at the perfect time. Everything about that went perfectly for Chandler. He made weight. He got the finish, went home. Good for him. But what got lost in Chandler's debut was that post-fight call-out. He called out Dustin. He called out Conor. He called out the winner of that fight. And he called out Khabib. I was like, Yeah, he called out Khabib. Record scratch moment for me. It just got the wheels turning in my head as I rewatched it. But Khabib is retired. He is. And last week we talked on the show about how neither Conor nor Dustin is bringing Khabib out. And I still believe that firmly. Khabib is not getting brought out by Dustin. And if Conor would have won, Conor's not bringing Khabib out. But what about Chandler? If I'm Dana White, I'm throwing Chandler to Khabib. I'm telling Khabib, look, this is your future. This is your ticket to take your legacy and place it at the top of the mountain as the #1 fighter ever. You're a legacy fighter. We said this last week. You're a legacy fighter, not a money fighter. This is legacy. Mike Chandler It's the first stepping stone in this legacy. All right. So where I'm getting at is maybe asking, how does this improve Khabib's legacy? Because unlike Poirier and Conor, this opens up the door to another fight, which opens the door to him being the #1 undisputed fighter of all time. And if he takes this path, I will gladly crown him the greatest of all time. If I'm the UFC, if I'm Dana White, this is a can't-lose ticket to a ride for the future of the organization. This matchup, Khabib and Chandler, sets up 2021, 2022, and possibly 2023 and beyond. Who knows? Stay with me, okay? I'm going to get to the comments in just a little bit. Just stay with me right here. Let's go ahead and match up Chandler versus Khabib. Let's stick this fight up for late April, early May. Mike Chandler, Khabib Nurmagomedov. What if Khabib does what he does and he ragdolls Chandler? What's next? How's it set up 2022? All right. I want you to look no further than Mike Chandler's camp. Look at Sanford MMA. Henry Hoof, world-class, legendary kickboxer. And another coach over there, now not many people, Henry Hoof gets all the credit over at Sanford MMA. But Greg Jones is a legendary D1 wrestler from West Virginia. Won 3 national titles over there. Amazing camp. Who is also the home of our current welterweight champion, Kamaru Usman. You see where I'm going with this? So if I'm Dana White, Khabib just mows through Chandler like he does everybody else. Why? If I'm Dana White, hey, you just did this to Usman's training partner. I think you could do it against Usman. So that's the story right there. Khabib bested Chandler, is riding a wave of confidence to fight his teammate, which is Kamaru Usman, welterweight champion. And Kamaru Usman is looking to avenge his teammate and cement his place in the upper echelon of welterweights, because Kamaru Usman has still not yet had that victory that everybody talks about. Everybody's already forgotten the Masvidal fight. Okay? So Khabib versus Usman. That'll be the next fight after that. And if Khabib beats Usman, he's the welterweight champion of the world. The best division in all of MMA, the premier division. The division that once belonged to, George St. Pierre. Think about that. And there it is. Challenged GSP on his own turf for the title that he made famous. Biggest fight left to make in the UFC. Ask anybody. It's Khabib versus GSP. GOAT versus modern GOAT. But let's rewind. What if Chandler beats Khabib? Crazy to think about. Not so much. I'll pick Chandler in that fight. His camp is full of elite grapplers. You got Greg Jones. You got Kamaru Usman in particular. If Chandler beats Khabib, you just create a brand new superstar at the lightweight division, your current premier division. And then you could put Chandler Poirier, Chandler Gaethje, Chandler Conor, Chandler Oliveira, et cetera, so on and so on. And if Khabib beats Chandler and goes on face Usman, what if Usman beats Khabib? Well, then there goes your Kamaru Usman promotion problem, because Kamaru Usman couldn't draw flies if he was smothered in crap. There goes the feather in his cap. You have this thing that you can market. He's the modern GOAT. Who can beat him? And then you could book Usman versus GSP for that one. So if I'm Dana White, I'm not mulling over the rematch of Conor and Khabib going up in smoke. I'm taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture here and playing a little game of what if with Khabib. So, Matt, what do you think of that?
It looks like you put a lot of effort into that. I like that.
Yeah, I have a lot to think about.
I think Khabib is done with stepping steps. I think anything he does from here on is absolutely to legitimize his place in history of MMA. If he fights again, it's GSP, or it's, maybe Usman. I guess we'll see when he fights, Burns, if he calls him out or something like that, maybe that may get something going there. But I don't think he's going to bite off Chandler with one UFC win. Especially, he hasn't, he beat Hooker, but I think he's going to want to see him go through some other guys first, which I don't think Chandler has that much time. He has been around for a while, and
right. He's a grizzled veteran. He's a salty vet.
There's a lot of guys in that division above him that he would have to saw through, which takes that's going to take a lot of years off your career going through the guys that are left there. I don't know. I just think too many fighters would be opposed to it too. Even Dustin said, "Hey, I've been busting my ass for years to get here, and then Chandler's going to come in on one fight and call me out to try to fight for a title." He said, "I put in my time. If anybody, it should be Oliveira because he's been like me. He's put in his time. He's been here. He's rode the ride at the top for a long time." So, I mean, I like the story of it. It's very,
Yeah.
it's if it plays out that way, but the thing with the UFC is, the thing that doesn't make sense is what happens, or the least logical things are typically what happens. So I don't see Khabib, just taken historically off of how the UFC is. I could see, them doing maybe like a 4-man tournament for the lightweight title.
I love that.
With involving, Gaethje and Chandler and Poirier and Oliveira and seeing, out of that. Because I think Khabib is done as far as, him fighting Chandler, it isn't really going to do anything for him. He's going to look at each fight and what can this, not where it can, what step can this lead to? What, door can it open, but what, house is it going to give me? Like if I beat Chandler, what is that going to do for me right now? And I don't think, beating Chandler is going to do anything for him. If he loses, it's going to do a hell of a lot more than if he wins. And I think that's what he's going to weigh too. So I think it's going to take a GSP, or, we'll see if Usman can, really take care of Burns and then call him out and really get a fire under him and kind of, get Rick kind of not Colby Covington-ish lit up, but, just kind of get, because Colby was able to turn around quick with, because he was quiet and he wasn't like, how he is now when he first started. He wasn't like that at all. Maybe Usman can turn it up a little bit and, become animated a little bit, and you never know, and call out Khabib. But I don't know. I would love to see it unfold like that, but man, I don't know. I think
especially since I just talked about it. If it comes out like this, I'm a damn genius.
Laid it all out for him. But man, I don't think so. I think Khabib, and we talked about it too, the whole cultural thing, with the way people look at legacies and things like that. It's different to everybody, and he's totally, not what the UFC is used to. So, I guess we'll see. But yeah, I could see a 4-man tournament lining up, and then, Khabib just, sitting back until something really, I guess it was kind of like that with Floyd Mayweather too. He could have fought, Canelo again, or he could have fought this, he could have done this, but then when Conor came around, it was perfect. And I think that'll be the same thing for Khabib. He could fight Chandler. He could fight Poirier because he's, of his performance, especially if he wins. But I think he's going to sit back and it's going to be the same circumstance where everything has to be perfect. Not great. Everything has to be perfect. Like what ended up for Floyd, could be the same there.
All right. But say we do have that 4-man tournament. What do you do with Conor?
Fight Nate again for the third time? I don't know. I mean, he obviously, if you look at how much money he made, he's about the money, right? He's still, about making his money. He's one of those, to correlate it over to the pro wrestling world. He's one of those wrestlers that doesn't need the Undertaker or whoever. He doesn't need a belt to be a superstar. Some of those guys, they need the belt as a prop to, build them up. The Undertaker doesn't need it. And Conor is kind of like that. He's that MMA fighter that doesn't need the belt to be a superstar. He's that one fighter you could put on the poster without a gold belt, and people are going to say, I got to get that pay-per-view. I got to watch that show. Conor McGregor's on it. Not the champion is on it. Because we talk about that before. MMA is a real small niche, and they're not selling it to us 1%ers that are diehard and going to watch every show. They're selling it to the 99%, the guy in, Iowa or whatever, walking down the street that sees a flashy poster with a big gold championship belt on it. That's who they're trying to sell these pay-per-views and stuff to, because they already got us hooked, no matter who it is. So Conor is that one person that doesn't need a belt to be on those posters on that TV screen that people are buy into.
Point. All right. So my question is, if you're Dustin, what would you do next? Would you fight Conor for a third and get that big payday, possibly the biggest payday of your career, which I think it would be his biggest payday of career? You just beat Conor, you finish Conor, you're the first guy to TKO him inside of MMA. That's a draw right there. Or do you fight for the title? What would you do if you're like Dana approaches you and Dana says, all right, Dustin, what are you going to do? You want to fight Conor or do you want the title fight? What do you want?
I mean, knowing Dustin, he don't care who it is. If it's for the title, he'll fight anybody. I mean, I think at this point, it's got to be for the title. You know, he's only getting older at this point. He's, you know, been around for a while. You know, he had the interim title. He wants that undisputed title. He don't care who it is. If it's for a title, that's the route he's going to take. You just, you know, he'll sign it and he said, fill in the name later. If it's for a title, I think that's the approach he'll take.
Yeah. Go JE said Poirier versus Diaz. I'm going to tell you right now, they put Diaz in the octagon with Poirier or someone like Justin Gaethje, I'm calling the cops. That's a murder waiting to happen. We haven't seen Diaz win a lightweight fight in probably, I think my math's correct, probably 5 years, I think, and put him in the top against those guys. That'd be a bad recipe. If it's Nate Diaz versus Conor, it has to be back at welterweight. I don't think Nate's going back down to lightweight anytime soon. And Hunter said, fight for the title, obviously. All right. Can't disagree with that. But if I'm Dustin and I'm thinking financially here, I'm thinking this is prize fighting. The biggest, like you said, the belt is just the thing about championships in other sports is you play for the championship. But the thing in fighting, you're fighting for the money. And in fighting, the belt's very arbitrary. It's just a promotional tool. Like, hey, this guy has a belt. He's a champion. And the belt's just a big marketing tool. And the whole point of that is to get more eyeballs on you. And I got to disagree with you. I got to say, like, really, fighting Conor does a lot more for Dustin Poirier's legacy than him having a lightweight strap. Could you imagine being the guy who beat Conor twice in a row? I mean, that's a nice feather in your cap.
Just knowing Dustin, he doesn't care about that. He is very number one driven, champion driven. If you say you're the champion, that means everything to him. I mean, right. It's about being the best. It's about just that obsessive nature to be the best. You know, if he'd fight for free, if it meant he was fighting for the championship, I can guarantee that's the option he would take. I mean, it's just it's in his blood. It's Tim Crater told me a story about Dustin before. He said when Tim was in the height of his UFC and Dustin walked into the gym, he said Dustin was like 16 years old. He said he had a little mustache. Couldn't even tell he was 16. He said, I thought he was a little Mexican kid with a mustache because he said he had a dark complexion and the mustache. He said we went at it, and he said just you could. Even at that age, you could just see it in his eyes. You could feel the intensity. He said, I went to the bathroom, spit out my mouthpiece. It was full of blood. I looked in the mirror and said, this kid is the next superstar. And he said, I saw it way back then. And, obviously Tim was there with him from day one, and a lot of where Dustin is because of Tim Crater. And he's, some people are just molded differently. Some people like Conor, it is more so the money. He had his championship. He's good with that. Now he wants the money. Dustin's got the money. He's getting the money. He's getting paid for these fights. He's taken care of, so it's not like he's living on the streets. His family is taken care of, but he's more concerned with that being a champion, being on top. Like I said, he would take a pay cut if it meant fighting for the title or fighting for the bigger money. And everybody's different, but in general, what you're saying is absolutely true. The title is more so a promotional piece, and you fight for the money. Boxers obviously are notoriously, they're called prize fighters. That's where it comes from, is from boxing. They fall for the money. But, some of these guys are just a different breed. And I think Dustin is just one of those guys that's just totally different.
Yeah. Joe J.E. says 5 years since Nightfall. I'm looking at right now. His last fight at lightweight was against Michael Johnson. That was in December 19, 2015. So, yes, his last lightweight fight was 5 years ago and some change. But welterweight, he's fought Conor twice, Anthony Pettis, and Masvidal. So I don't really want to see him go back down to lightweight because I think Nate performs better at welterweight. I think we've seen
that many times at a higher weight, it's hard to go down. They could do it if they're jumping back and forth a little, but when you go that many times up and then try to cut down, it's going to be hard on his body, especially
it's a hard cut, especially when you. Yeah, I mean, it probably took its toll on Conor's cardio as well. I think Conor knew that. That's why he went to Portugal. So, all right, so let's play a little matchmaker. If you're Sean Shelby or Dana White, you're sitting in the room, it's like, all right, what are we doing with this division? We got to build a card. Let's build a lightweight card. Let's put a championship fight on, and co-main event, let's put 2 more lightweights in case the main event falls through. So what are those 2 fights?
Ideally, obviously you got to put Dustin for the title, regardless of how the other 3 chips fall.
All right, I agree. Dustin, if Dustin doesn't want Conor number 3, let's go ahead and put him in that title picture. If not, just crown his ass. I mean, they've crowned Jose Aldo without a title fight in the UFC. Right. I mean, you could do the same for Dustin. Yeah. So let's go ahead and say it. Dustin is the A side of – he's the red corner. So –
yeah, absolutely. I think no matter how you want to put it, I think that's indisputable there. I think, no matter how you do it, Dustin's got to be fighting for the title. I would like to see Oliveira just because he was kind of in that same boat with Dustin. When Dustin finally got his interim shot, you've seen him put in the work for so long, you'd love to see somebody get that chance. I mean, I know they kind of went back and forth a little bit on, social media. It'd be a cool thing to see, and then put Gaethje and Chandler. That'd be a hell of a matchup because, both those guys are going to go. Obviously, we saw how Chandler went forward on Hooker. Gaethje's not going to step back like that, so that would be a nice collision between those two. And then if somebody falls out, you always have somewhere to go. But I mean, you could interchange a lot of those other 3 guys, but I think Dustin has to fight for the title.
Yeah, I'm agree. If Dustin doesn't take Conor 3, and that's when Dustin wants that title, I'm saying, okay, the title match to make right now is Dustin versus Chandler. I mean, is he more deserving than Oliveira? Probably not. But can he put more eyeballs on that television screen?
Absolutely.
Matching up with Chandler. Yes.
Right now, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I'm going to go Dustin versus Chandler in the main event. Co-main event, I'll have Oliveira versus Justin. And just for fun, I'll convince Dan Hooker, don't pick your gloves up out of the octagon. He threw his gloves at the end of the fight. Pick up your gloves. Let's fight Tony. So there's your 3-man lightweight card. That's how I would do it. Because at the end of the day, the whole name of the game is put eyeballs on the television set. I think Chandler, Poirier, they fall in the same card. They got the 2 finishes the same night. I think it's easier to promote than Oliveira, who has his ups and downs in the UFC. I mean, if he gets past Justin, I mean, that do everything for him to make him number 1 contender, or vice versa. Justin
and vice versa.
takes care of Oliveira. There you go. So yeah, I mean, right now the lightweight is the premier division. I mean, because it used to be welterweight. Welterweight's still the best division this sport has. But right now, lightweight is the prettiest division. She's the single girl at the bar everybody's looking at. Whew. A lot to talk about for that. I mean, you can shuffle this deck up many, many ways in the lightweight division. All right, so what else we got on tap for you tonight, folks? Let's go ahead and talk about this. Ben Askren versus Jake Paul is officially official. I mean, there was rumors that was going to happen, but now it's official. And I'm going to tell all of you MMA fans, I'm calling you out on this. Everybody on the social is saying Jake Paul is going to whoop Ben Askren's ass. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't do it. Ben Askren has been doing combat sports his whole life. He is no stranger to a training camp. When it comes to wrestling, MMA, he's done it all. Jake Paul has only been boxing for, train boxing, would you say 2 years, if that?
I guess.
He looked good against little Nate Robinson. He looked good against this other little YouTube jackoff, whoever he was. Yeah. Good for you, Jake. I mean, you could beat guys who have zero combat experience. Zero. None. Now you're going to go up against two-time Dan Hodge trophy winner, an NCAA champion, All-American wrestler, Bellator champion, ONE FC champion, and you're drinking the Kool-Aid because the thing about fighting, you're as good as your last fight. And everybody drinks that Kool-Aid. You're only as good as your last fight. Yes, he looked bad against Damian Maia. He looked bad against George Masvidal. He even looked bad when he beat Robbie Lawler. But he is still levels, absolute levels in the fight game above Jake Paul. And I'm not kidding you. Perfect example. There's many gyms in Louisiana you can go to. Go to some Gracie United gyms. Go to Port City MMA. Guys who don't have hardly any boxing experience, but who do a lot of MMA training. A bunch of jiu-jitsu guys are throwing on these gloves and going to town, hitting each other. Go challenge them to a boxing match. They're going to smoke you, and they're going to smoke you easily. It's not going to be a competition. It's Kimbo Slice all over again. I love watching Kimbo Slice videos. Everybody watched Kimbo Slice videos back in YouTube glory days, back when you can upload that kind of stuff. When George Masvidal was curtain pulling for Kimbo Slice, that's funny to say. Like the curtain puller was one of the biggest stars in fighting now. Everybody was telling me, Kimbo Slice, he's going to MMA, he's going to do great. What was the promotion he was? What was that Shamrock promotion he was fighting in? You remember?
Elite XC.
I think
Elite XC.
Yeah. He was. It was produced by Showtime, and like they're building Kimbo Slice up. Yeah, it's Kimbo. And then he meets one of the most average fighters at the time, Seth Petruccelli. He just jabs him a couple of times, and down goes Kimbo. And Seth Petruccelli was like a kicker, like a Taekwondo guy, I think he was. So don't get into this in your head that just because Jake Paul has beaten Nate Robinson, he's beaten this other YouTube guy, whatever his name is, that he's going to go in there and beat the likes of Ben Askren. Yes, Ben Askren's coming off a hip surgery. He's coming off 3 bad performances. But look who those bad performances are against. Robbie Lawler, George Masvidal, Damian Maia. Damian Maia would box circles around Jake Paul. Damian Maia outboxed Colby Covington. So everybody's over here sipping on that Kool-Aid. And definitely shame on y'all for saying that Jake Paul can knock out Ben Askren. Ben Askren has one of the best chins I've ever seen. Like when Robbie Lawler picked him up and drilled him into the ground, I expected oil to spout up that he drilled him so hard. But people, recency bias. Come on. Let's use our brains here. Jake Paul, if you think Jake Paul is going to win, you want to bet money on, just don't bet Jake Paul by knockout. If you have to bet on this and you have to bet on Jake Paul, say Jake Paul by decision. But don't you dare bet Jake Paul by knockout. It ain't happening. I will come on here and I will do a Tuivasa shoey live on air. Jake Paul. I will take these Adidas right here. I'll take them. I'll pour my beer in. Just boom, boom, boom. I'll spit, shoey like that. If Jake Paul finishes Ben Askren, it ain't happening. If anything, I think Ben Askren's going to finish Jake Paul because Jake Paul's never been taken to deep waters before. I don't think he'll know what to do at that point. If Ben Askren's got him against the ropes and just pegging him, man, am I nuts for even thinking this is a good fight for Jake Paul? For Ben Askren. Ben Askren's going to whoop his ass.
Oh yeah, I don't know what Jake Paul's end game is. I don't know if he's really trying to be a combat sports athlete or if he's just trying to make the money. If he's trying to make the money, yeah, he's going on the right path.
He's got us talking about him.
Yeah, so I don't know. Jeez, I already felt like we'd spent enough time on him already.
I just had to call out the base. I had to call out the MMA fan base. I had to call out boxing base. Y'all should know better that there's levels to this fight game, and Jake Paul barely took his first baby step. He hasn't fought a real fighter. Even though Ben Askren is a wrestler, a pure wrestler, he has not fought a real fighter. Shame on all of you for even entertaining the idea that Jake Paul is going to beat Ben Askren. He's not. You're probably thinking, well, what if he – no, don't think about it. Go lay your money down that Ben Askren is going to finish Jake Paul. I'm calling it here. But let's move on to real fighting. Let's move on to Paulo Costa versus Robert Whittaker. I got to tell you, I'm kind of disappointed in this matchup because why is this not interim title fight? As a promotion, UFC gives out interim title fights like it's candy. Like it's those little free Frosty coupons old people like to give out for Halloween. Why is this not interim? I mean, because Izzy's going up to fight Jan Blachowicz. So I was very disappointed that this is not interim. But at least we're getting it.
Yeah, and you never know. They could always add that later on too. But yeah, I mean, you would think so, because if he's fighting Jan, and then it'll be several months after that before he would even defend the title, and it's already been a while since he last defended it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see what else is on that card. I know it's sometime in like April, I think. So I mean, I think there's still. Is that the same
title fight? Do it.
Is that the same one they're trying to get Rose on with?
Yeah, I think so.
What's her name? Is that the same card in the Philippines or wherever it's supposed to be? So I mean, you never know. They may end up making the interim title because they need a title fight if they can't get that one on. You never know. That's always something they can throw in last second. You get the right players involved, and then you can go from there. I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't. Like you said, I mean, every other fight's for an interim title. So
yeah, I mean, if they really, if I'm Dana White, which I'm not, I mean, I should be. I felt like I got a brain for this recently, especially with my little rant a while ago about Chandler, Khabib, and all that shit. But if I'm Dana White, I'm saying, all right, let's go back to ABC. We had a good debut on ABC with Max Holloway, showcasing us, showing the world something they've never seen before in that kind of performance. Let's put Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa. Let's put Bobby Knuckles on main event interim title fight on ABC. Let's put Rose and Zong on there while we're at it. 2 title fights on ABC for free. Ooh. I mean, those are easy eyeballs right there. Why not? Whittaker has been some more. Yes, he has. I love it. He's like one of the most beloved fighters I can think of recently that everybody has universally loved. Everybody universally loves Bobby Knuckles. And now that fight's official, who do you got in that one?
I don't know. I think I'm gonna go with Whittaker. I mean, because Costa is a lot of like the Romero mold. They're kind of a lot of the same. And Whittaker can handle Romero. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to handle Costa. He's just
right.
a carbon copy of that for the most part.
Especially he weathered Jarrett Cannonier storm.
Yeah.
I mean, unless Costa has power, he has a puncher's chance. I'm not saying he doesn't. But I'm going to take Whittaker, put him out in deep waters. I think I'm going to say around 4 TKO.
Yeah, if it
Blake agrees with it. Blake says Whittaker.
It may be late 2, early 3, because I don't know how long Costa can swim. I think he's going to burn out. And
remember when he fought Yoel and they're both sucking wind, like they're oxygen depleted. It was horrible. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I love Costa. I mean, he's entertaining as hell, but I just don't see him being that championship 5-round fighter. I mean, if he's gonna be a champion, he's gonna be putting guys away in round 1 or 2.
Whittaker's played that game before, with somebody like Costa, so he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's getting into, and Costa's gonna go in there, throw everything at him, and he'll try and see what sticks. But then when he's out of gas, he'll collapse.
Yeah, I agree. All right, and in the boxing world, we got another fight. I was kind of hyped that Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis were calling each other. I thought we were going to have 2 young studs in there duking it out, but we don't. We got another fight. We got Ryan Garcia versus the legendary Manny Pacquiao. What do you think of this one? I mean, I really want to see it, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, Manny, no. And at the same time, I'm like, oh, that kind of fight's kind of too early for Ryan Garcia, but at the same time, I really want to see it. So what are your thoughts on that one?
I'd rather see Garcia and Gervonta Davis. I would still much rather see that one. I mean, we'll see. I mean, good for Ryan Garcia, to get in there with somebody like Manny. I mean, it does seem kind of early, but Manny's really late, in his career. So, that may be the the best, time if you're going to catch it, catch it early.
High risk, high reward for both guys.
Yeah. Yeah. They're on different opposite ends of the spectrum. So, we'll see. But
that's the problem with, and that's why we touched on the Ali Act. This is a product of the Ali Act, where we can't get these great matchups because they're bound to another WBO, WAB, blah, 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 ABC, DEF. It doesn't matter, XYZ. That's what they're committed to. So they have to go in and have these mandatory fights like this. You got to fight within your organization. That's why we got it. Kelvin Grant, welcome to the club. He says, man, Pacquiao is going to get this. Ryan Garcia, he's very young. I think I'm going to go with you on this one. I think I'm going to say Manny Pacquiao. I'm going to go experience versus youth on this. I think it's just a smidge too soon for Ryan Garcia, but he's a freak athlete. If you haven't seen any of his training videos of him sparring, him working out, Ryan Garcia, that dude's just an absolute animal of an athlete. But I am going with Pacquiao on this. I think
he's got to be careful too, IQ. Garcia won his last fight, but he got dropped too. So
and plus a guy this young, 20, I think he's 26 maybe. I think he is 26-year-old under those lights against a guy like Manny Pacquiao, fighter he's looked up to. I think the pressure is going to get to him, and I think Manny's just going to box him. I think Ryan might take a few rounds. I'm going to say probably 3 out of the 12. So give me Manny for the rest of those 9 rounds. All right. So I think that does it for that part of the show. Matt, let's talk about your baby. Let's talk about KSW. You want to talk about some KSW? I know you do. You chomping at the bit. KSW. Always. I'm looking forward to this card. I've said this on the show plenty. Parnas, I love him. I love him so much. I'm gonna watch this. This is tomorrow, isn't it?
Tomorrow, and it's about 1:00 Central. 1 or 2 Central, because it's like a 6-hour
Central time.
Yeah, there we go. About a 6-hour discrepancy from here in Poland. So yeah, it works out great, especially when there's a UFC. You can always watch KSW. It always ends right before UFC starts. But yeah, no UFC. So, KSW can get everybody's attention. No excuses to miss it. And yeah, this is the main event and the co-main event are, just two opposites. Your main event, they moved to Parnas's bout with Daniel Torres up to the main event. You got 2 young, featherweights, and then your main event is just 2, hardcore, just scrappy, strong, big guys. Man. Yeah, they're both really heavyweight. For the most part, they were just small heavyweights, but yeah, they're fighting.
Same with Jan. Well, there's something about these Polish 205ers that come up from this scene. These 205ers from Europe, dude, they are just tiny little heavyweights that stuff dynamite in their gloves. I can't wait for that one. That's I'm
Seiden and Zawada.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Seiden on this one.
Oh yeah, I'm going with Seiden. He's a Olympic gold medalist. A lot of these Polish guys, Damian Januszkowski is a Polish silver medal, bronze medalist in the Olympics. He's in the light heavyweight. So these guys, they win Olympic medals and then they go into MMA. It is just just an accepted transition over there. You win a Olympic medal in Poland, they jump right into MMA. And they're some of the best strikers. These guys are like we were talking about, these are some of the best strikers. This dude is an Olympic gold medal wrestler. He knocks everybody out in the first round. If you go look at it, I think it's like 7 first-round finishes and like 2 second-round finishes. He just mauls people. So, but then on the other hand, you got Zawada, who's been around this is like his 45th fight or so, pro fight. The brother David Zawada, who's in the UFC. This is Martin, the older brother. He made his debut at KSW, like KSW 6 or something like that. Been around for a while. So, it's a good test, a couple older guys. Seiden is early in his MMA career, but he's, a veteran of combat sports. He spent a lot of his time in, wrestling. I mean, there is just a ton of fight. Shamil Musayev is a undefeated Russian fighter. He's 14-0. He was a lightweight. He's moving up to a welterweight. I don't know why. He really could have had the next title shot at lightweight, but he's moving up. He's moving up to welterweight against Euros Jurisic, who's a big signing. They signed him, and then almost the next week they had him about signed, ready to go. That's the thing with KSW. They sign somebody where, the UFC, they'll sign somebody, it'll sit around for a while. KSW, they sign somebody, you're in the next event. I mean, that's just, how it is. He's coming off of a first round win in Bellator. So, I mean, he's been, around those big organizations. And I mean, it's 8 fights, and so every fight, they don't do 20 fights a card and do a card every week. So you're getting, the best. The matchups are almost like the old school UFC days where you're waiting for the next card because you're not getting one every week. So that talent is just jam packed. Like I said, they don't do 15 fights on a card; they do eight fights. And so, I mean, it's just stacked from top to bottom. I mean, there's another heavyweight fight, Michael Andrzejczyk, who has won, every single one of his fights has not gone to decision. It's a finish. He either gets knocked out or he knocks out. I mean, and then he's fighting a guy, Guto Incente, who is Brazilian, but he's coming from Glory. He was big in the Glory heavyweight division, and now he's coming over to KSW. So, I mean, these guys are gonna, they're gonna scrap. This will be your striking for sure. I mean, and then Michael Askren has won back-to-back fight of the nights, fighting against Alexander Rakis. So, I mean, you got a couple new guys coming in. I think there's like 2 or 3 guys making their debut who they just signed. Some young guys, they have fought in FEN, which is Fight Exclusive Nights, another organization in Poland. It's kind of like the number 2. It's kind of like what Bellator is here. FEN, that's what FEN is in Poland. They kind of top out at FEN, and then they come up to KSW and go from there. They kind of have the same kind of system. But man, I mean, that card, just like any other KSW card, I'm always going to say that, but they're fun to watch. I mean, from top to bottom, and they have the best. Will Vanders is the best color commentator in MMA. He's got that little British accent, but the dude is the best. I mean, he says whatever.
One prospect on this card I'm actually looking at, who I've read about, have not seen him perform, who I'm hoping to get a good look at tomorrow, is Euros Jurisic. Like, I've read all about him. The dude's good, but I'm not giving him my stamp of approval until I actually watch him fight. And he's fighting Shamil Musayev. So what can you tell us about that fight?
That's a big one. I was just talking about him a little bit. I mean, he's coming off of a Bellator win, a first round victory against Walter Gazada, I think it was, in Bellator. He's got some Titan FC wins. Hey, I mean, really, whoever wins this fight, I could see being the number 1 contender for Roberto Soldic. I mean, especially Shamil Musayev, like I said, he could fight right now for the lightweight title. I think, I'm sure they probably told him, hey, if you come up here and get this fight, we'll give you a welterweight title shot. So, I mean, yeah, this is definitely a number 1 contender, spot for welterweight. Roberto Soldic obviously is the heart of KSW right now. So, to get a shot against him, to have that opportunity to take the belt from him is a huge opportunity for either one of these guys.
Man, I gotta tell you, I can't wait for that one. We got nothing on TV tomorrow. No sports, no football, no UFC, no excuse. Watch KSW 58. You won't be disappointed. I just recently, because of Matt, just started watching some KSW stuff. It's good MMA. It's not like these other American promotions where, like Bellator, you get like these little freak show fights. No, they're matching up killer versus killer. This is old school. Like I rank. I compare KSW to old school Pride right here. Like they want people to watch 2 guys go in there, exchange leather, and beat the holy hell out of each other. It's gonna be awesome. I'm in love with KSW now. It's like my new Pride. No pun intended, but all right. Let's move on to Glory 77. I haven't seen a good Glory card in a while, and this is the one. This one is stupid stacked.
Yeah. I mean, this one is it's 4 title fights. They're having a 4-man heavyweight tournament. Hey, it's gonna be crazy. The welter, I'm looking, the guy that's Alex Pereira. Everybody, they may say they don't know who it is, but they've seen him. That's the highlight they always show of Israel Adesanya laying flat on his back. That's who put him there, and that's not the only time he beat him. He's beat Adesanya twice. He's their middleweight champion. He's the interim light heavyweight champion. So he's fighting the actual light heavyweight champion, a unification bout, and if he wins, he'll be Glory's first ever undisputed double champ ever. I mean, and his sister's fighting on the card too for the bantamweight title. Elena, that's his sister. She's fighting for the bantamweight title. So I mean, it definitely runs in that family for sure. Man, I'm really looking forward though to the welterweight with Cedric Dumont.
Did you see the weigh-in for that?
Yeah.
Cedric Dumont just throws his shirt over at Myrtle, and Myrtle just like, what the? And he goes to him. Yeah. It was kind of a punk move, throwing your shirt at a guy when he comes to you back up.
There's a lot of bad blood there. A lot. This will be their 3rd time fighting. This is.
I told you, dude. That's probably one of the GOAT hats.
Highlight of the show. Yeah, I'm gonna break out a new one every week. I'll break out a new one. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bad blood there. This is going to be their rubber match. Dumont is just, man, he's an animal. He doesn't like, how his opponent fights. They never shook hands in their first 2 fights. They don't touch gloves, none of that. They really do not like each other. They've had a couple cross table, discussions, and, it ends up in shouting matches. And every time, these 2 guys really do not like each other. And I mean, they're going to go at it. I think Dumont's going to get it. I mean, he's at that point in his career. He's at the highlight of his career. I mean, as far as his hot, this is his stage of dominance right here. This is going to be his tenure of dominance right here. So I don't think anybody's going to stop him right now.
Yeah, we've got the heavyweight, little 4-man heavyweight tournament. Ooh, if you love just knockouts, watch Glory Heavyweight. You're almost guaranteed a knockout every single fight. And we got Tariq Khabib versus Levi Rickers. I haven't seen much of Levi. I've seen Tariq fight. Tariq's a bad dude. Can't wait to see more of him from Morocco. And before that, we got Rico Verhoeven versus Hedsty Gerges. That's going to be a fun one too. Gerges actually has a pretty good little highlight reel of him.
Yeah, Rico's a champion. This is going to be his 10th title. This is going to be his 10th title defense. He's been ranked number 1 by Combat Press. I think that's who kind of is the official ranker for kickboxing. He's been number 1 since like September of 2014. Rico's been number 1.
For some reason, Tapology's saying that this is not a title fight. I thought it was.
It is. Yeah, you can't. Okay. Tapology, they don't keep official kickboxing records. They kind of show them as exhibitions, kind of, because they don't really keep track of kickboxing.
That's true. Tapology's more of an MMA page.
Yeah, it is. He was supposed to fight Jamal Sandarek or something like that. Sarek. They fought before. And Sandarek had pulled out with an injury, so they turned it into a 4-man tournament. And so yeah, I mean, this is going to be his 10th title. It's almost like the Bellator Grand Prix, where the champion was still defending it through the tournament. This is kind of what it's going to be.
I think Bellator nailed the Grand Prix. Put your champion in it and let the title follow him to the main event.
That's kind of what.
And Jody, you're wrong. That hat is fire. I love it. Everybody loves that hat, Jody. Sorry, you're the minority on this one. But yeah, Glory. I mean, it's not an expensive pay-per-view. It's only $30. Go get it. I mean, you got no football tomorrow, no UFC. You got nothing tomorrow. All right, let's wrap this up. All right, we had Justin Gaethje commented on Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz was doing his best keyboard warrior. That's what Nate Diaz does best these days, is sit behind the keyboard, talk shit. Justin Gaethje said, look, if Nate Diaz were to step up to any of us, we'd roll him up and smoke him.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, if they were to ever put Nate Diaz in there with Justin, I'm calling the cops on Dana. That would not be fair to Nate. Nate would get his ass whooped quickly by Justin. So we think of Nate Diaz right now. Supposedly he had an opponent, but we've seen nothing of that yet. So what do you think? What do you think's going on with Nate Diaz?
I think he's trying to keep his name out there right now. A lot of what we saw with Conor before he started to kind of get a little bit more active than he was. I think he's just trying to stay relevant right now. Yeah, he's definitely not fighting any of those top lightweights. I don't think he's going to fight a lightweight at all at lightweight. I mean, and none of those guys are going to come up to fight him. There's nothing in it for him. So I think he's just trying to be relevant right now, keep his name out there. But
I mean, we haven't seen a good performance from him since Anthony Pettis, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, Anthony Pettis ain't even a welterweight. I mean, Anthony Pettis' only shine at welterweight was knocking out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson off of a freak Superman punch. So it is what it is. Y'all kill me every single time. I praise him for those ugly things. Quit making him think he looks fly. He does. I'm sorry. The hat and the man, they go together. It's like,
and then I got the AYS shirt on too.
That's just that's drip. Shirt. That's what the kids call this these days. That is drip.
The hat, the shirt combo.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. All right. So Matt,
the Fight Club shirts made. What's going on with that, Blake?
Let's get some Fight Clubs.
Them things would fly off the shelf. I know they would. So what's
absolutely
what's going on with that?
All right, Matt. That shirt and hat is major drip. Yes, it is, Blake. We're encouraging this. Get some more flat bills. I mean, I can't rock a flat bill. My head's not shaped good enough. I have a
hat rack over there. I mean, they're falling off the rack. I have a closet. I probably have. I mean, my wife can probably attest. I'll probably have 50 or 60 hats, probably.
Yeah, you need more. I mean, I love them. I mean, that's like one of my favorite things was when you come home, I'm like, what kind of hat does he have on today? Is it football, basketball? What is it? Anime? What is it? One time you showed up here with a flash hat. I loved it.
Yep.
Fight Club shirts coming spring 2021. Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. So, Matt, that's it. That's the menu, I think. I think we touched on everything I had on the menu. So anything you'd like to add? Anything I missed?
No, I think I kind of like the things at the bottom. That was nice. I'm sure everybody else likes that too.
Playing with them.
Keep us on task so we don't wander off like we're known to do. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah. We're moving on up.
Yeah.
All right. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the club tonight. That's it for us. I'm Daniel Dees. That's Matt Bricker. Matt, tell them the first rule about AYS Fight Club.
Tell all your friends about AYS Fight Club.
That is it for us. Thank y'all so much for joining. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night.